Hello everybody, Bill Harrison here with Hardened Power Systems. Wanted to shoot a quick video, introduce everybody to the Recon G1. Now, by way of introduction, a little bit of context. So, let me move this out of the way. And you may or may not be familiar with this. This is the Operator G1. It's a system designed to power, support, protect, and pretty much enhance the MXT 100 and 105 made by Midland Radio USA. And it's been well received. It's been a lot of fun. It's a very versatile, compact little device. In fact, we were very pleased. Midland Radio voted this the #1 accessory for their Midland MXT 100. So in any event, this is the Operator G1. Think of this as perhaps the little brother to the Recon that we're actually talking about today. Then, some of you might be familiar with this. Think of this as the big brother to the Recon. This is the Scout G1. Similar in features and functionality. This is really intended to support larger radios, extra devices. There's a cubby for a solar panel. Again, think of this as the big brother in our line here. So now, if we take another look at the new Recon, it's interesting to understand that the Operator fits in a 30 caliber can, the Scout fits in a fat 50 can, and the Recon sits nicely right in between the two in a standard 50 caliber can. It's a fairly compact package. So the goal here was to support as many radios as possible that fall in between the micromobiles like the Midland MXT 100s and the larger mobile rigs that simply aren't going to fit in a space like this. So I suppose a good example are the small Jetstream 25-watt dual banders, some of the Yaesu and Econ offerings that are kind of mid-sized mobile radios. There's a huge number of radios that would be compatible with this machine. Now, this is not unusual for us in its features and its functionality. Fairly typical control panel and the way you interact with the machine. We've got the mil-spec remote antenna cable, amp meter, voltmeter. We've got auxiliary power out for other devices. We've got a direct-to-battery Anderson connection to either pull battery out, energy out of the battery, or to put energy back into the battery. We've got a 3 amp USB driver, which is extremely powerful. 3 amps is a lot of juice coming out of USB. You've got a front-mounted 3-watt full-range speaker, great for voice. It's actually the same speaker that we use in the Operator and the Scout. That speaker has a defeat switch, because it also has a headphone jack, so if you need to run silent or if you're in a noisy environment, you can defeat the speaker and turn the headphone on. It's got a built-in solar controller, 5 amp, and a charge indicator here, so you can tell what's going on if the system's charging. Kind of like our Operator, we've got a field here on the laser engraved plate where you could write a call sign or a name or any identifying information, or just leave it blank. We've got a single rocker switch that activates a cooling fan. That fan, might have a hard time seeing it, but it's right there. And that blows air directly up on the underside of the chassis of whatever radio you put in this. The system accommodates the radio, obviously, here in this cubby. This is ostensibly it's a microphone pocket, and it is, but it's a large one. And we did that mostly because the new Midland MXT 400 just has a huge microphone. It's nice, it feels good in the hand, but it's one of the larger ones that I've seen. So in any event, this will accommodate a large mic, and it has a fair amount of depth. Not sure how easy you can see this, but 6 inches front to back in that cubby. And one of the neat things too, if I'm going to get you oriented back here's the front of the machine. Here's the microphone cubby. Right here, I don't know if I'd call it hidden exactly, but there's a small hinged lid. And you know, this is large enough for keys or a pocket knife or some adapters or connectors or some of the small accessories that are easily lost that you might want with your rig or in the field or if you had to jump. The system on the other side has a fairly generous area for antenna, speaker, power to pass through and to be flexible enough to accommodate whatever radio you're using. We also have here a pocket for the AC charger for the machine. So that tucks in there, actually under flush, and when you slide this into the can, you know, of course that AC charger is secure and it's not going anywhere, but it's there when you need it. Now, one of the things we bumped into almost immediately when we started designing the Recon, and we realized just the scope of the number of radios we were going to try to accommodate with this. I think we did well with the radio bay. Okay, so we're 5 3/4 inches in that throat opening by 1 5/8, and then obviously the depth of a 50 caliber can, and that accommodates a lot of radios. But boy, you sure wind up with a list of radios that you wish you could fit, and you can in width and in height, but you can't in depth. Now, an interesting solution came out of those discussions. The 50 caliber can that this chassis slides into is not the only variation on that form factor in ammo cans. There's another size that's readily available that's a tall 50. It's about 2.5 inches taller than a normal 50 caliber can, but it's otherwise identical in all other directions. In fact, the lids are interchangeable. So it really is the same can, just 2.5 inches taller. Now, the neat thing about that is that allowed us to take a fairly good-sized radio like the Midland MXT 400, which I think is an exciting radio because, and you know, I know there's going to be some hams that, I don't mean to say you guys are rolling your eyes, but yeah, we're talking GMRS in this example. But that's fine. Let's talk GMRS. Let's talk a gateway drug for people to get into comms. And some of those people, they're going to become hams once they get on the radio and they start working it. So anyway, I applaud Midland in their efforts to, if not mainstream GMRS, they certainly are making some nice strides towards making some really nice legal radios. And you can see just how nicely that radio lives in here. But it's too deep, especially if you want a little bit of clearance for airflow. This rig runs a bit hot, and a lot of radios, you know, in the 40-50 watt class do. So in this scenario, we're making something that's an option for this device, and we're calling it the deep Recon option because it accommodates a deeper radio. And it's really quite simple. It's a machined extension to the chassis that simply lives in the bottom of the taller, stretched 50 caliber can. It creates a great deal of offset back here. In fact, we've got a Yaesu FT 8900 knocking around the shop, and that's a deep radio, and it fits beautifully. It fits nice. And then, of course, that extension also creates quite a lot of storage, whether that was long wire antennas or cables or adapters. You can appreciate, if you look at this, you know, that's essentially the amount of space that will be in the bottom of that tall 50 caliber can, minus obviously whatever your radio projects into this. There's a lot of room in here to stash stuff. Nice to have, especially if you can appreciate the benefit of having kind of everything in a single can. And when I say everything, you know, this system, like most of our stuff, of course, it's self-powered. There's a 9 amp hour AGM battery that's replaceable without tools. Solid little sealed lead acid 9 amp hour battery, and I suppose it kind of goes without saying, but it needs to be said. Of course, the new generation of Lifepo4 drop-in style batteries are pretty impressive, and like our Scout and our Operator, if you want to have the benefits of that awesome chemistry in lithium iron ferrophosphate, Lifepo4, increasingly you're getting some nice over-the-counter batteries in standard form factors that, because they are drop-in, and that's an important distinction, they actually handle the SLA or AGM charging profile. It's very cool. It's essentially a pain-free way to upgrade to LifePo with your existing gear that uses standard-sized AGMs. They're not cheap, but they are very nice. And we've been real happy so far with the ones that we've been testing. So let me think what else here. The system comes with some little dogs that you can move around in these pins and rotate their position to create different offsets, so you can kind of try to secure your gear. Couple of bungees here, kind of clever the way it works. It's recessed into the side, yet it still allows it to translate up and down, and that goes a long way to just holding a radio solid. Like a lot of our stuff, we've got rubber bumpers that work with foam in the bottom of the can, that when you close the lid, the whole chassis kind of floats. It's pinched very securely, so it can't rattle around, but it can still rebound a little bit if the system takes a bump or gets dropped, or if there's like vibration or whatever present. Oh, the last thing, I showed you the little cubby in the side for the antenna and the audio and the power. We will list these 3 cables on the product page for the Recon, and I'm sure we'll wind up making others, but for us these are ones that we make every day and they're fairly common. This is an Anderson in the standard Aries format to a 4.7 by 1.7. A lot of people would just automatically think of this as a Yaesu cable. Another one, essentially the same cable, but this is a 5.5 by 2.1. Very common with KX series radios. And then this, again, Anderson to a T-style connector. And this is what you'll find on things like the Midland MXT 400, the little Jetstream JT27. And in each of these cases we're using, and this is something we came up with, and we don't sell it, but boy, we like them. These are a 3D printed strain relief that completely cancels the failure point of Andersons as it relates to movement of a cable where it enters the back of the Andersons and hits the crimps. I guess I wasn't really planning on going into that here, but I knew people were going to see this and wonder. Yes, you probably haven't seen these before unless you've seen some of our stuff. Works good. So in any event, a person can select the standard Recon, and therefore they get the standard 50 caliber can, and the dimensions are on the website. It's going to be easy to figure out, but you know, Jetstream radios, some of the Baofangs, some of the smaller mainstream radios are going to fit right in that. If you've got a radio that's deeper, but would otherwise still fit in length and height, then take a look at the Deep Recon option. It's not expensive, and all we do is swap the standard 50 for a tall 50 and include that that machined stand that goes into the bottom of the tall can. And then if you need it, then select a power cable that suits your rig or rigs, and get on the air. Anyway, again, this is Bill Harrison with Hardened Power Systems. Folks, I'm just delighted to finally be talking about the Recon. Honestly, it's been on my brain for about 3 years, on paper for about 2, in our CAD systems for about 1 year, and then a few different prototypes knocking around the shop for about 6-8 months. It wasn't until Midland rolled out the MXT400 that kind of lit a fire under us, because I see the potential in that radio, and I look forward to some ham radio, some soon-to-be ham radio guys and girls coming on board, because they started with the GMRS bands. And also the GMRS, do not underestimate that from a prepping comms standpoint. It's worth doing a little bit of reading and getting some understanding about what the possibilities are with a license that does not require an exam, yet it covers your family. And again, that MXT400 is pushing 40 watts. We recently put up an antenna here on the shop made by Dr. Fong, who you can find actually on eBay. But he's a university professor out of California that is making some spectacular GMRS antennas. And since his graduate students build them in exchange for part of their tuition, they're remarkably inexpensive. Just take a look on eBay for Dr. Fong, F-O-N-G, and GMRS antennas, and you'll start to see what you can do for very little money with a powerful GMRS base station, a decent antenna, and then start taking a look at the inexpensive bubble pack radios and see how dramatically you increase their effective range, both transmit and receive. So anyway, that's a bit of a rabbit trail. Folks, this is the Recon G1. We'd love to build you one. Take care now.